I'll be right there. Good to see everybody this morning. So something's been kind of working in me. This idea of, actually, it starts with the idea of the antithesis of cooperation. It's the idea of competition. Having just gone through an election process, which is created it as a competition, it is, and realizing the effects of that, it's been very interesting to be observing how that works in my life and in life itself. And although where I'm going here is that I want to talk about the value of cooperation and some of the challenges of competition, I'm not standing here to say that we shouldn't ever have anything competitive. Because there's certain things we wouldn't know how to do if there wasn't some level of competition. The main one you would think of course, is sports. And I don't want to take that away from everybody. That would be kind of silly. But we live in a culture that so reveres competition, that capitalistic model most people interpret as meaning that competition is the highest form of action. What we find out through research that has been going on for over 100 years is when there's an opportunity to either compete or to cooperate. In every single instance, cooperation is a better way to do it. So, accepting that there's some things that are based in competitiveness, I would still say that there's the possibility from that place that we always can move into something that doesn't work. For example, if any of you have been following the news, I know that many of you don't, and I appreciate that, but there was this fuss going on in the NFL because the football is a competitive activity. And it was some of the teams, I think it was the New Orleans Saints are the ones that got tagged with this. They were actually paying players to injure players on the other team. They were paying them thousands of dollars if they could injure someone and get them out of the game. And that's one of those places where competition will take you, to the level of the absurd. And that's the kind of thing that doesn't work. And cooperation is something very different. And I want to give a demonstration to you of the thing that I was saying, that when you have the choice, cooperation seems to be a better model. Here's one that has happened in the last couple of decades. You're aware of the whole situation with AIDS. Okay, the HIV virus. For several decades now, there have been the development of certain pharmaceuticals that are to deal with this virus. It's a virus. This was done as a competitive effort because everyone realized there was going to be big money in it. So pharmaceutical companies competed to create a vaccine or drugs that would help people deal with the symptoms of AIDS. Today, if someone has the HIV virus and is taking those pharmaceuticals, it costs them around $15,000 a year to take those. Yeah, and there are plenty of other examples in pharmaceuticals where it does have cost a lot of money. Drugs are expensive, even the ones that are legal are expensive. Wow. So I've been told. Remember a thing called SARS? Let me tell you what that means. SARS is severe acute respiratory syndrome. It was first identified in Asia, and many of the people that got SARS died. However, very quickly, pharmaceutical companies and governments went to work to find a vaccine for SARS. Breathtaking how quickly they came up with something that would handle it. Why? Because they used a cooperative model to solve the problem. They worked together. And very quickly, it was handled. And even though some people came from Asia into the United States, it never became an epidemic here. Because people were willing to cooperate to find a solution. And from that place, a different outcome came. So what is this thing, competition? Why is it, why are we kind of, it seems like we're hardwired for it. God, I know the times in my life I felt like I was. Barbara can tell you, anytime in our early relationship that we played a board game, I was just incorrigible. I just wanted to play. I didn't care who who I was playing. I wanted to win the game. It wasn't pretty. But I tell you, this election has really had an impact on me. There were 4 people running for the office of president. I like all of them. And right now, and I was the one that won. I won. And right now, I really only have a relationship with one of the people that ran in that with me. The other 2 are distant, and I can't connect. And there's nothing wrong with them. This is the element of competition. It creates distance. It creates separation. It creates lots of things. It creates cheating. It creates disagreements. It creates war. War is a competition. By definition, competition means to create an advantage at others' expense. By its very nature, war is a competition. So why do we keep doing this? What is this about that we keep wanting to play and do this? Because what happens is that this idea of competition brings out the beast in us. It's in our reptilian brain that we want to compete. It's not in our frontal lobe where we can think and imagine and be creative. Where at the same time, cooperation is a creative process. It's a very different way of being in the world. And the beauty of this is, for me, is that if you follow the teachings of Ernest Holmes and the science of mind, God is everywhere and always. Not just at the point of me. In fact, if I only want to deal with God at the point of me, I'm missing most of the presence of God. I'm not aware of it. I'm not actively engaged in most of the presence of God. I'm just doing my thing. And there's nothing wrong with doing my thing. And yes, our choices in our lives create the outcomes in our lives. But when our choices create an expansive model, we get a different result. So the idea that we can play a bigger game by being cooperative gives us a distinct advantage in life. So all of this that I'm finding, there's been quite a bit of research about being cooperative, and I want to share some stuff with you about that. Studies show that researchers in fields like science and really any kinds of research work, when the researchers are cooperating with other researchers, they publish more articles, and they make more of an impact on the world. Those that play a competitive game with their research don't. Business executives who have a cooperative style of doing business make more money. Students who study together in a cooperative environment make better grades. And personnel directors who work with directors from other organizations have less openings in their company. They have less vacancies. Isn't that amazing? This idea of being cooperative really makes an amazing difference. Barbara was watching a TV show the other day, and I walked in, and she was so wonderful. She backed up her show to show me. I think it was on the Discovery Channel. It was called Oceans. Anybody seen that? Wow. There was a scene she wanted me to see that was so amazing. It showed dolphins, yes, thousands of them, and seagulls, I think they were seagulls, some kind of seabirds, and sharks worked together to manipulate a massive school of sardines so that all of them were fed. And when they were done, there was still a massive school of sardines. But the point is that the birds and the porpoises and the sharks actually cooperated in the process so that everybody got fed. In nature. I mean, this was observed. There was no one manipulating this at all, just watching this happen. How many other places does that happen? Nature is full of examples of this. You know, branches of a tree, so so the birds can sit there and defecate and feed the tree. It's just this natural flow, and it's a cooperative thing that nature doesn't care about who. It isn't a problem. So if I embarrass anybody with that, just let it go. It's a natural state. But the idea that that this whole idea of cooperation is the natural state of things. For example, your body. Your body is actually a collection of 4 trillion cooperative cells. They cooperate. They work together to fight off viruses and bacteria. They work together to make sure that every cell receives nourishment of oxygen and food. They work together to make the whole work. Are there ever cases where a body can be competitive? Absolutely. In many cases, it's called cancer. Think about that. Cancer is where certain cells are competing with other cells for those nutrients. So the idea of being cooperative we find all over nature. But if we are going to have a life that is cooperative with our fellow man, our fellow woman, Deborah, pay attention. We have to work at it. We have to pay attention. Because the culture we're in, the environment of our culture, does not always support it. But when we can find a way to cooperate, we get a different result. So I have my list of points for you this morning, as I've already shared. We're going to go through these one at a time and kind of think about how we could apply these. So the first one is always focus on doing well. Well, we do that by ourselves. But the same point is that regardless of what our stand is, we want to focus on doing well. We want to get the best result. And here's something interesting. The idea of success and the idea of winning are processed in different parts of your brain. Isn't that interesting? So the idea is to do well, to bring your best to whatever you're doing, always, so that whoever you're working with can model that in what they're doing. Begin by doing well. Our second one, expect outcomes that take a little longer. And I'm not telling you how to do your lab. But what I want to say, when people work cooperatively, they have to communicate. They have to share ideas. They have to create outcomes. They have to review the outcomes. They have to work together. It takes longer. Absolutely. As Chuck demonstrated so beautifully, doing it by yourself is faster. You know what to expect. You've done it before. You're experienced. However, there are times, not always, but there are times when cooperating is going to give you a better result. Chuck knows what result he's after. But most of the things we get involved in our lives, we haven't experienced the outcome yet. We have an idea of what we want, but where we're going is somewhere new, somewhere fresh and different. And what I find is that if we have the patience to stay with it and work with other people to create that, we'll get a better result. So from this, we learn patience and flexibility. And that can only help us. My third point, learn the language. When we're in a cooperative environment, we are communicating, largely with language. We're talking to other people. We're sharing ideas. We're sharing direction. We're sharing feedback. But you have to use the language to do that. You have to know what the right words are, the words that everybody's agreed on to make the thing work. And it may seem like a minor point, but it really does come in handy. Because there have been times where I've used inappropriate language. Didn't know it was inappropriate until I said it, but somebody thought guys was maybe not the right way to address a group. You know, it's just a matter of perspective, but if you know the language, you don't get caught in those little traps in life. Isn't it lovely the way I can apply my very immediate moment to the lesson that I'm bringing in? Number 4, share leadership. This is one of those profound things I found in my life, is that sharing leadership creates more leadership. It creates a greater outcome. My favorite thing to do at this center as an activity is go to a leadership council meeting. It's that place where people who have stepped up into leadership sit around a circle of tables and share what's going on with their group. And we coordinate, and we connect, and we support. And I love these meetings, mostly because we created them out of nothing, and because I hear things I wouldn't have heard otherwise. And I see people interacting in a way that is productive and supportive and loving. I have never left a leadership council meeting where I wasn't just like off the ground so happy that people were so deeply, lovingly committed to the good outcome of everything that we do here. And it has been amazing how few things have not worked out since we have turned the leadership of this organization over to you. It has worked brilliantly. And I'm so happy and so delighted that we have found our way to do that. When a group of people share leadership and everyone has their area to handle, what happens is everybody does better. Everybody's lifted up by that. We're lifted up by modeling the leadership and by demonstrating the value of leadership in all that we do. And leadership, as you will know if you ever come to our ownership class, increases our sense of ownership. It's our center. It used to be Barbara and John's center, but that's just not true anymore. It's our center because we own it, and we run it, and we lead it. And by doing that, we have a better center than ever would have existed with John and Barbara. It's the truth. The next one, solve problems together. This is that wonderful idea that if something isn't working right, I may have an idea on how to handle it, but there may well be a better idea. Often there is. And the way to find that is when we find it together. When we're challenged by something that's not working and we hold on to it and try to fix it ourselves, we're limiting the consciousness that's going into that resolution. Whereas if you open it up to everyone that's in your cooperative group, the answer comes easier, it comes quicker, it comes more profoundly. So that we don't have to feel that burden on ourselves, that you got to work everything out by yourself. We use one another to find the answer. And when we find the answer, everybody gets to celebrate the answer. Isn't that lovely? The next one is balance your give and your take. This was an idea that we certainly are bringing to a cooperative effort. We are certainly there to help one another. But sometimes we get into that helping mode and we forget to ask for help. We forget to bring what we're working on into the picture so that everyone can contribute to that. That doesn't mean that every thought that comes up is going to be the right thought, but it means that somewhere in the mix of that cooperative group, something wonderful is emerging. And if we try to control it and keep it to ourselves, we struggle with it. But if we open it up and share it, in that give and take, more wonderful things happen, and they happen quicker. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say about that. No, it's the next one. Share resources and information. This is the idea of brainstorming or mind mapping or working together in some way to bring out all the possible ideas. The beauty of that is that we learn how to not be in judgment, because every idea that comes up isn't going to work, and that's okay. But if we consider all the ideas, there may be an idea that's brought forth that in itself wouldn't work, but might be a starting point for looking at something else. It may give you a thought that you wouldn't have had otherwise. That's the beauty of working in a group, with a group of people. I found that profoundly valuable in my world. There's greater wisdom in the circle than there ever is in the individual. The next one. Praise everybody. I think there's a tendency sometimes when we work with people that somebody seems to be doing a better job than other people. And it's not that we don't praise someone for doing a good job, but there's real value in this idea that everyone is contributing to the whole. I know people, some people have a real issue with this thing that goes on with kids right now, that they'll play soccer or softball or something and no one will keep score and everyone will get a ribbon at the end about how that's not teaching them about the real world. Well, guess what? It is teaching them about the real world. It's teaching them that they are contributing to the whole by being there and being involved. Everyone gets to contribute. Everyone has a role. Everyone has a part. So if we're going to praise people, let's praise everybody. Let's don't hold one person up for everybody to look at. I've done that in my life, and it will backfire. The idea is that everybody's doing a great job. Everybody's bringing what they can to the mix. And out of that, something wonderful happens. Next. Pass it on. What a great idea. Cooperating feels good. And what happens is, if a cooperative model is engaged in your life, What you will do is you will be learning things about how to interact with people, how to communicate, how to be successful, and you will translate that and transfer it to other actions and experiences in your life. And when you do that, the world gets better all around you. Not just in that circle, in that activity, but in every activity of your life, because you're taking what you're learning in one place and taking it out into the world and cross-pollinating ideas everywhere. And what a difference that is in creating. And the last one, pay attention to how you feel. I'm sleeping better. I'm sleeping better. Barbara and I both are sleeping better because I'm not running for an office. I'm not in a competitive model right now. It's amazing. We came home from New Orleans and we just stopped being up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, almost every morning. We're sleeping through the night. The difference is all that anxiety of competing is just gone. It's better to cooperate. You feel supported. It's not like you have to stand there and say, pick me over them, or let's do it my way. It's like, what's the best thing to do? And you feel supported. I feel supported. This has created such a shift in my life. And again, I'm not suggesting that we know how to do this. But I want to find out how to do this. I really do. Some of you were with me and Barbara on Friday night at Greg Braden's presentation down in Hendersonville. And he shared a quote that night that I think really applies to this idea that I wanted to share with you. You never change things by fighting the existing model. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Yes. Isn't that brilliant? Yes. So I'm not standing here saying I've gone to war with competition. That would be kind of dumb. I am saying that I like cooperation, that it really does work in my life, and I want to do it more. It's working in this community, and I want to see it happen more and more in my life. I'm in a situation right now where I'm being asked as president to call communities that have not been supporting our international organization over the last year or so. That could be a really hard conversation. But what I'm finding is that by calling in the spirit of cooperation, that we're finding solutions. With every call that I have with a minister or a board president for one of our communities, we're finding solutions because I'm approaching this from a cooperative perspective. And if I can do it, we can all do it. So what I want to ask you is, are you interested in creating for your life a different model of how to deal with people and situations? You want to do that? Yes. Good. Thank you. When I became president, I bought myself a gift. I love these bowls. I love that we start our celebrations with these bowls. This one right here is the heart bowl. I love the heart bowl. But it's a big bowl. It's a lot of bowl. And I figured out that they're not all that size. Because this too is a heart bowl. You're going to be surprised. You ready? Feel it in your heart. So I want to invite you to close your eyes for a moment. I want to invite you to be in a state of possibility. I'm going to tone the bowl. And I'm going to ask you to think about someone in your life that you felt competitive with, or some circumstance that has called you, you believe, to be competitive. Just let that be in your heart right now. Can you open your heart to this one? Yes. Whoever it is, whatever the circumstances. Can you open your heart? Imagine what your relationship could be like if it was based in cooperation. Simple, gentle, loving cooperation. Be in that space. feels like. Let that feeling guide you into a greater way of being in the world. And when you're ready, open your eyes. We all have a little homework. And I wish you well with it. God bless you. I love you very much.